The empty fire tower. If you ever hear your own voice calling from the woods, don't answer. I wish someone had told me that before I accepted a summer job at an old fire out lookout tower in northern Montana. At first, it sounded like the perfect escape. Good pay, no traffic, no people, just forest scratching further than I could see. I thought I was getting away from stress. Instead, I walked into something that should never have existed. My name is Logan Turner, and this is the story I had never been able to explain. I had been working long hours in Seattle and disrespectfully needed a change when I found a seasonal job watching for wildfires from an isolated fire lookout tower. I packed my truck and drove east. The tower sat on the on top of a mountain surrounded by endless pine trees. The nearest town was over 40 miles away. The ranger who handed me keys was an older man named Frank. He looked tired. Radio works most of the time, he said. Most of the time, he struggled. Storms do not strange things up here. He paused before getting into his truck. If you hear anyone outside after dark, he looked directly at me. Don't open the door. Before I could ask why he drove away, I laughed to myself because loved making ghost stories about lonely places. The first day was peaceful. I climbed the tower, unpacked my things, checked the radio, and watched the sunset paints the mountains orange. It was beautiful. That night the forest became completely silent. Not quite silent, silent, no bus, no insect, nothing. Around midnight I heard footsteps, slow crunch, crunch, crunch. Someone was walking through the trees below. I grabbed my flashlight and looked out the window. Nothing. I beam moved across hundreds of trees, empty. Then I footstep stopped. I told myself it had been an deer. The next morning, I walked around the tower. That's when I found footprints, human footprints, bare feet. Then circled the tower again and again, but they never led into the forest. They simply ended. I stared at them for several minutes. There was no her. The person could have gone. I reported it over the radio. Probably hikers, another ranger replied. There are not any trails up her. Silence. Then he changed the subject. That night I locked every window. Rain started around 10. The wind pushed against the tower, making the old wood groan. At exactly 1:17 a.m., the radio turned on by itself. Static filled the room. Then a voice, Logan. It was weak, barely audible. Can you anyone hear me? I grabbed the microphone. This is Fire Tower 12. Go ahead. Static, then Logan. The voice sounded familiar, too familiar. It sounded exactly like me. I froze. Who's there? No answer. Only static. Then the then the radio shut off. I did not sleep. The following afternoon, I drove into town for supplies. Inside the tiny grocery store, I asked the cashier if a strange thing ever happened on the mountain. She stopped smiling. You hear voices? I stared. How did you know? She quietly looked towards the window. My brother worked that tower 6 years ago. What happened? He come home after 3 weeks. She slowed. He never speak again. I waited for her laugh. She did not. Driving back, I keep thinking about her words. Maybe she was trying to scare me. Maybe everyone in town enjoyed enjoyed these stories. That every fog rolled through the forest. The trees disappeared behind thick grey clouds. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. Around midnight, knock, knock, knock. Three slow knocks on the tower door. I had my breath. Hello, no answer. Another knock. Then a voice. Logan. It was my mother's voice. My heart nearly stopped. She lived over 600 miles away. Mom, please open the door. My hand reached towards the handle. Then I remember Frank warning. Don't open the door. The voice became desperate. Please. Tears filled my eyes. It sounded exactly like her. Then I laughed. The laugh was not a human. It was. Then it laughed. The laugh was not human. It was dozens of voices speaking at once. The footsteps moved away into the darkness. The next morning, the ground around the tower was covered in fresh footprints, bare feet, hundreds of them, all facing the tower, none leading away. I packed my truck. I was leaving halfway down the mountain. My GPS stopped working. The road looked different. I kept driving. An hour later, I see the fire tower. I had someone how return to the exact place I had left. Impossible. I checked the road behind me. It was the only road. I drove again. I drive again. Same result. Every road brought me back. Panic settled into my chest. The radio suddenly crackled. Frank's voice. Stay where are you? Stay where you are. I can't get off the mountain. I know what is happening. He did not answer immediately. Finally he speaks. It wants it wants you to leave the road. What? No matter what you hear. The radio exploded into static. Then another voice interrupted. My own voice. He is lying. The signal disappeared. Darkness arrived much faster than it should have. The sun simply vanished behind heavy clouds. I had no choice but spend another night in the tower. This time I pushed a table against the door. Every light stayed on. Around 2 in the morning, someone started climbing the stairs. Slow, heavy step, step, step. The tower had 63 wooden steps. I counted everyone. When the footsteps reached on the top, they stopped. Silence, then breathing right outside the door. I had my flashlight with shaking hands. The breathing continued for nearly 5 minutes, then stretched. Something slowly dragged its fingers across the wooden door. Another stretch, then another. I wanted to scream. Instead, I stayed perfectly still. Eventually, the breathing faded away. Morning finally came. The stretches remained. 5 long marks across solid wood, too deep to have been made by fingernails. I connected headquarters. No answer. Every radio channel was silent. Every afternoon, I noticed something impossible. The clock inside the tower should 3:45. Time is showing. My watch showed 11:20 and my phone showed 6:03. Now none of them matched. Time itself felt broken. Outside shadow moved between the trees. Even thought nothing stood there. Every time I looked directly at them, then disappeared. Then that evening, I searched through an old cabinet inside the tower. Hidden beneath dusty map, I found a notebook. It belonged to a lookout named Daniel. The last pages were almost unreadable. They copy voices. They can't enter unless invited. Never answer when they call your name. The tower is not keeping us safe. It's keeping them locked outside. The stomach turned. The final sentence had been written over and over. Don't let him don't let them inside. The lights suddenly went out. Complete darkness surrounded me. My flashlight flickered to life. Someone was standing at the bottom of the stairs. A man. He looked exactly like me. Same clothes, same face, same height. He smiled. I been waiting. I could not move. He slowly climbed the stairs. Every step echoed through the tower. I backed towards the window. What are you? He tilted his head. You? His voices matched mine perfectly. He reached the top step. Then everything inside the tower shook. The radio turned on. Frank shouted through the static. Jump what? Jump now. The floor beneath my feet cracked. The copy smiled wider. Did not think. I climbed through the window and jumped. Branches slammed into me as I fell down hillside. Everything went black. When I opened my eyes, sunlight filled the sky. I was lying beside a rescue truck. Frank sat nearby. You made it. What happened? He looked towards the mountain. The tower burned last night. I show myself. He nodded. So did not everyone who ever worked there. The thing in forest learns people. What was it? No one knows. A search team climbed the mountain later that day. They never found the tower, only an empty clearing. No ashes, no stairs, nothing. It was as if it had never existed. I returned home and tried to forget. Months passed. Life slowly became normal again. So so I believe. Last week I found an old voicemail on my phone. It had no date, no caller ID. I pressed play. For several seconds there was only static. Then I heard my own voice, calm, quiet, almost smiling. I am still in the tower. I recording ended. I checked the time it was received. Tomorrow, not yesterday, not last week, tomorrow. Sometimes late at night my phone lights up with an incoming call. There is there is never a number. I never answer because deep inside I already know who calling. And one day I fear that the version of me still waiting in that forgotten fire tower will finally find a way to come home.